How would you assess the progress of your unit this year?
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's, obviously we had a rough start to the season, just as a team. But just the way that they continue to be resilient and come back to work, and just the weekly improvement that I've been seeing over the last 2 or 3 weeks has been, it's been fun to watch. Guys are still on board, bought into the process of working and improving and trying to put ourselves in position to win, each week. So in terms of that, the progress has been, it's been good. And there are certain guys that have, certain guys that separate themselves from others. So.
You said the last 2 or 3 weeks. What's changed in that time frame?
I think the bye week. I think that we figured some things out, through the bye week. And, you hate to say got back to the basics, but I think that we got back to the basics in a lot of ways. And, had a good chance to really, that's the first time that you got a chance to sit down and self-scout some things, when you've got that time off. And so we had an opportunity as a staff to reevaluate some of the things that we were doing and try to figure our personnel out and how we can play to their strengths as much as possible. And, guys are playing faster, and I think, that the little changes that we've made have made a difference schematically as well.
Brian, in relation to your unit, how did the changes this past week with the 3-3, how did that sort of play?
Right. I mean, they handled it great. I mean, it's, obviously that's not particularly a structure that we recruited to. So some of the pieces that you had to put in some places, like you saw Nelson playing inside linebacker. You saw now DU's comfortable doing those things because he did those things at OU. But that's that's a little different for Nelson. Man, he embraced it. Did a really good job with that. And what we're doing with some of the other, 3 technique body types where they were playing some 5 techniques and some 4s and 4 eyes and stuff like that was a little bit new for some of those players too. But I think from the jump on Sunday, getting ready for those guys, where we actually had a couple of extra days there, everybody was bought into, what they knew they needed to do to put us in chance to play some good defense.
Were you a little bit surprised though that you guys and that's a huge undertaking in such a short
time. Right.
To be able to, even if you don't have the body or the right.
Right. Yeah, no question. No question. And it's kind of a new defense. What we did last week was a new defense. So I'll just say that the process that usually goes Tuesday and Wednesday, and then things slow down for you on Thursday and Friday, and you kind of polish things up. It took the entire week. Of working out some wrinkles, just because players and coaches weren't in particular comfortable with that specific scheme. And so we're finding new issues throughout practice all throughout the week. And, like I said, it took us all the way up to the walkthrough on Friday to figure it out, how we were actually going to finalize that plan.
Weebu had his best game
since
he's been here.
Yeah.
Does this change how you see him or how you're going to use him?
As far as how I see him, no. We had watched some video of him when he was at OU before we took him here, and I think that he's equally as good at doing those things as he is on the edge. I just think that he's got some position versatility. Him specifically, I was really shocked that Nelson had that type of position versatility. We knew that DU did, so we weren't sure how that was going to fit for C's, but both of those guys got in and played really well. So no, that doesn't surprise me. Dave's, I can't tell you how many snaps that he got playing inside linebacker at OU, but it was a ton. I think it was a 3-year starter there for him. So he's got a comfort level with that stuff. And I would just say that, all of that stuff was new to Caesar, and it took Nelson and some of those other guys, like I said, all the way to Friday to figure some things out. From the jump on Tuesday and Wednesday, that stuff was pretty natural for DU. So
you said Caesar surprised you, shocked you.
Yes.
So what did you see that you weren't?
Yeah, well, just in particular, when you take a defensive lineman, somebody that's played with their hand down, is on the line of scrimmage, to put them back 4.5, 5 yards deep and make them process stuff, and how fast he was able to process stuff and know where he fit and know his coverage responsibility. Just his mental capacity is really good there. I'm not saying that I didn't think his mental capacity was good. We've never asked him to do those kind of things. So he was a really, really fast learner in that regard, and handled the stationary stuff where he was off the ball. I wasn't sure how well he was going to handle that in terms of his aggressiveness and how he saw things out there as a linebacker, but he played really well.
You guys have been high on him for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
Not just this past week, but just in general, the season he's had.
Yeah.
About what you had hoped, or in
Yeah.
terms of him maybe growing into things?
Yeah, no, really pleased with his development as a player. You know, I was looking through some things yesterday. I saw where he's second in the Big 12 in sacks. I mean, he's got 5.5, and there's a kid at Central Florida that has 6. So he's one of the best pass rushers in this league. You know, and when he gets one-on-one opportunities, and I think he had 5 or 6 of those in this last game because of the structure that we were playing. I mean, he's winning those things consistently. But Cease has, I mean, he's a guy that's been developing here in this program for several years, and he has quite a toolbox in terms of his pass rush ability. You know, so yeah, and I don't think that he's reached his ceiling yet. You know, you see him do something new or do something better, you know, every week of practice. So he is just from a maturity standpoint, the way that he's attacking the process and how much extra film and extra study, that, you know, the time that he's put in it's awesome to see that paying off for him and him making plays and producing.
The interior guys, Chidozie, West Virginia game,
Right.
kind of all over
Right.
the place.
Yes.
And then Jamari.
Yep.
He does, you know, he
Yeah.
goes out and, like
Yep.
Dana said, they start running the ball
Yeah.
towards the end there. Those two
Right.
guys,
Right.
how's that been?
Yeah, first of all, man, those 2 guys are special. So just the leverage and the physicality that Chidozie plays with in there on the interior. You know, in the West Virginia game, he was in some one-on-one opportunities in the run game. And when he gets some one-on-one opportunities, he's going to win them. You know, he's just that type of player. Jamari's that same type of player. What you saw Chidozie do, he played equally as well last week. You just don't see the numbers because he's playing a zero technique in an odd scheme. You know, so he saw a lot of double team, single block opportunities, and still did a great job of, at times, honestly, just eating 2 blocks and letting second level players make plays. And you know, Jamari he's a complete player, guys. I mean, he's an NFL 3 technique. He is. He's got that type of size. He's 6'3", he's 330 pounds. He's extremely twitchy and sudden. He's got a very high mental capacity. He loves football. He's athletic. He's tough. You know, so you're just kind of starting to see him emerge a little bit, and he's going to continue to make a lot of plays around here.
So you've been high on Caldwell for a few years.
Yes.
What is it that
Yeah.
has clicked for him
Yeah.
this year? You say he's sudden and twitchy.
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, when we got him, you know, we went and got him out of Independence Community College, and he had not played there yet. He actually redshirted and was behind Ossie, who's here playing for us now. So they didn't need him and redshirted him. We went and saw him in the spring and then ended up, you know, taking him in the summer. So he missed he started games for us last year and didn't go through spring practice. So we didn't sign him. I mean, we didn't get him here until May. So the summer was the only, you know, off-season conditioning and football work that he had. And so for him to come in fall camp, the first time that he could put pads on last year, and be impressive enough to start starting games for us, says a lot about just what a fast learner he is and what type of athletic ability he has. You know, so he started, like I said, I don't know the numbers exactly, but I know he started, you know, 2 or 3 games, and then he went through an injury, if you guys remember that or not. So he had a little something with his knee, nothing major, but a little something with his knee that put him out for 4 or 5 weeks. So we missed that span of time with him there, and then he came back and he finished the season for us as a starter as well. So now what you're looking at is a guy who's gone through a Division I Power 5 off-season program. As he also didn't get that in the spring, and then he's gone through a spring practice where he got development as a football player. So you're seeing untapped potential with a very high ceiling start to get closer to that ceiling is what you're seeing.
Right.
He's always had the ability.
Can I follow up quick? Is he on scholarship?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Dad played at South Carolina. Really good bloodline. Was a defensive tackle.
I was going to ask you, we've heard the term Big 12 bodies. And
Right,
stuff.
right.
On D-line,
Yep.
where you feel
Yep.
like you are, because you get a guy like Jamari, and
Right.
I mean, he looks like a big
Yeah.
12 Power 5
Yeah.
guy. Or do you feel like you're building that that roster on your?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We are always looking for those body types, and when you get off the bus, do you look like the other team looks? Everybody's looking for that prototypical length. There are some guys here most of the guys here in our program that when we recruited them, we were aware of the move that we're making, and that was part of the evaluation process. Is this guy a Big 12 player? Jamari's one of those guys. And then there's some players that were recruited here prior to us even knowing that we're making that move. Some guys have been able to make that transition and can play at this level, and some guys we've moved on to other places and stuff. But that is definitely something that we're looking for, the length and that body type on the interior at 3 technique, and then also on the edges. We want to get longer on the edges.
Who's the next guy?
Inside or outside?
Well, just in your program, you develop constantly.
Yeah.
There's always a next guy.
Right.
Coming.
Yeah. So first of all, Jamari's got another year to play. So he's one. Obviously you guys have seen AJ Holmes play some good football here. That's from Westfield. That we were able to play in 4 games last year and still redshirt him. He started several games for us. He's developing. Has a chance to be one of those type players. On the edge, I mean, there's a guy like Zy Strong that had some eligibility issues last year, didn't go through the season, that hurt his development, that is starting to get some of that development too, that has a Peyton Turner type of body, and has that type of ability. So he has a high ceiling, and I've got to get him coached up and get him closer to that ceiling. But he's a guy that has that type of potential as well. I'm trying to think, another kid that's played really, really well for us that still has some physical developing to do is Talik Robbins. So I don't know if you guys have noticed him or not in the games that we've played. He's looked really good on film. He's an Ole Miss transfer. All right, so he's from Philadelphia. We got him out of a Mississippi junior college last year, had bounced back from Ole Miss. And Talik is a guy that has never gone through an off season and needs a little bit of physical development, but is a freaking really good football player, and has really good mental capacity and is learning. He actually started for us last week in the package that we were in last week. So he's another guy that has 2 more years. He's a 3-year guy when we signed him that I think that once Coach Bauer gets his hands on him, in the weight room and he goes through an off season, I think you're going to see a big time football player next fall.
Brian, you had mentioned something. I like your film breakdowns, by the way, on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Or X.
Yep, right.
You made an interesting comment where you felt like in a couple of years where this place is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You look at the crowd, you look at the performance.
Yep.
Sort of what was in you,
Yeah, I mean, no, just the atmosphere, the environment, and I think after, I mean, obviously I felt it and saw it, out there at the game. I thought it's the best that it's been in the 5 years that I've been here. I mean, it's the first time that in the stadium I look up and even the top corners have people in them. So it's packed. Texas may have had a little bit to do with that, but it just shows you, potentially that, hey, there's a fan base here that now, for whatever reason that you're in the Big 12 and you're playing against schools that probably some of the alum here used to play against, and that's a more recognizable rivalry for some people. For whatever those reasons are, you start to see the potential when you saw that crowd and that environment. I mean, we had over 100 recruits on campus that day. It was a sellout crowd. We were playing a top 8 opponent. I mean, it was a great environment, man, and just seeing how our kids handled that and competed. And Houston's always been a place, it's why I took a job here. It's always been a place that you feel like has unlimited potential. The Big 12 move was necessary for this stuff to kind of get unlocked around here and start to happen. And like I said there in the tweet, when a facility gets built and there's a level playing field in terms of what we're showing recruits when they come here and then they go to Texas or they go to Baylor or they go to Texas Tech, when that starts to become a level playing field, you better look out for Houston. Because, I mean, the recruiting area doesn't get any better than this.
When losing Brandon, that the plans for him and how you wanted to, was that big? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that affected us for sure. He was, what we felt like with DU and Caesar, and he was going to be that 3rd rotational player right there that we felt like he fits our structure defensively here better than he did the structure that they were playing at Ole Miss, and was starting to thrive a little bit, before those injuries. So, he had been Just to take you through his history a little bit. So he played in 4 games and redshirted at Ole Miss as a freshman. So he played in the SEC as a true freshman. He played behind Sam Williams, who plays for the Cowboys right now. That's a good friend of his. And Brandon was the starting Jack Sam backer in that particular scheme that they were playing in that following spring of his freshman year, and then broke his foot and had some setbacks. And in that time, they had a defensive coordinator change. The scheme changed, and he kind of fell by the wayside. They stopped kind of having that hybrid type player. Those hybrid type players, we've had success with those type of guys here. Wilson was one of those. Derek Parrish was one of those. It's like, he's not the prototypical 4-3 defensive end. He doesn't really fit into that outside 3-4 outside linebacker mold either, somewhere in between in hybrid. I mean, those guys can play in space. You can do some coverage stuff with them, but they're also physical enough to put their hand down, play a 6 technique. They can rush the passer. Those type of players I'm always looking for. Those are the pieces, and I felt like that he had that type of skill set that we could plug him into a lot of the stuff that we do.